What's the top thing that comes to mind that you say to yourself, "Oh, I can't believe I didn't record, XYZ." Like what's the top thing that would have been amazing content, but you just didn't have the camera with you, or you forgot to push record, or something like that?
I was at the O2 Arena. I was maybe 7, 8 years old.
Nice.
And Rafa Nadal was practicing on a practice court at the arena. And there was this woman that came out to me and my dad and asked, would you like to meet Rafa, hit some balls with him, and
Wow.
get an autograph, say hello? And I was so shy. I was so scared. I just totally froze up.
Really special guest with me today. It's Felix from the Tennis Brothers YouTube channel. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. Felix and I just met, and I'm looking forward to asking some questions, getting to know him a little bit more. Felix, welcome to the channel. It's really good to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm super excited, I guess, since you did that reaction video to my first episode. I've been super excited to speak with you and I guess talk to you, and it's exciting to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, your videos have just been absolutely killing it the last couple weeks in particular, but probably the last month or two. You've really just been on an upward trajectory, so congratulations for that. You're doing an incredible job with your content. For the 1% of people who watch this who maybe aren't familiar with what you're doing or kind of what you're up to, can you please just start by giving us a little bit of background about yourself as a player, kind of
Mhm.
catch us up to where you are now with the channel and your competition, your training. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your background?
So I started playing tennis like properly around the age of 7 for an academy. I played a little bit beforehand, but it was like a mixture with other sports. And then since then, I've kind of been playing, to a high national level throughout, 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s, and now kind of men's. And so I've kind of taken this opportunity of a year off in between school and university to
Ah,
try and, I guess, get my first ATP point and obviously document that on YouTube. I think the YouTube idea was kind of quite late. I think I originally wanted to take the gap year before just for my tennis in general. And then that kind of stemmed, I guess the idea on YouTube stemmed from the fact that I had lots of time and how do I fill it basically. Because I think my parents were kind of saying, you don't want to just sit on your bed all day apart from when you're training, which is which is some good advice looking back on it because I still can get a little bit lazy sometimes. But it's good to have something to do. And obviously on YouTube, kind of before this series, we were doing mainly stuff, me and my brother. I guess we did some stereotype stuff. We did some just general videos that we could film. Um, and my dad was kind of the main person orchestrating all of that, doing the stuff with the filming, the editing, all of that. So me and
hmm.
Lucian were kind of mainly kind of actors almost, if you think about it. But obviously, I've taken a bit more of a kind of leading role in that now. And I think I use kind of my all of my years of watching YouTube to help me kind of sculpt some of the editing styles and the way I'm explaining it a little bit. Because I kind of felt within tennis, there's not many channels to begin with that show a journey. There's also
Hmm.
barely any channels that use the kind of, I guess, similar ways of kind of editing and telling a story, which I kind of wanted to bring across. So sometimes, obviously, the video is a little bit fast paced, but that's kind of how I want it to be, kind of entertaining, always something new, Mr. Beast style a little bit,
Nice.
with the way that the story is told, rather than I guess like hold a camera, speak for 5 minutes, like I guess some other people do. There's nothing wrong with that. I just feel that for like audience retention and stuff like that, for me, that's like a way that it's worked, and I think I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're doing a great job. And yeah, you've totally developed a unique feel, and I can totally see the Mr. Beast influence there. And it's really smart, I think, to combine that and not show every point and not do the long monologues. And so, yeah, it's really obvious why you're taking off so much. And I think a lot of it obviously has to do with your level too. Like you're really impressive as a player, as a competitor. Can you give everybody an idea, like where exactly are you right now in terms of like rating or ranking, like UTR? Like how do you measure it, and where do you feel like you fit in right now in terms of competitive tennis?
I think I'm one of the players where like my level in training and stuff is a lot better than it is in matches. So I found like in the past when I've played a large bulk of matches, that's when I kind of begin to see the performance, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. So I think like my UTR right now is 11.3 or something around there. Obviously, I played Giles Hussey, who's like a ATP 775 last week, and I obviously lost 11-9 in the champs tiebreak. So hopefully that
Yeah,
bumps
that's
it up
tough,
a
man.
little bit.
I totally
Um,
thought you were gonna pull it out.
yeah, hopefully that bumps up the UTR a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the rating. I guess I was what I think 16 and under 18s in the UK. I didn't play any junior ITFs or anything, but yeah, looking to play futures tournaments in the upcoming year. And hopefully, kind of the more matches I'm playing, the more I'm doing analysis with my coach. Some of the stuff that I wasn't doing previously because of time constraints, and I guess now I'm filming everything, which is good on top because I can analyze it. I'm
Mm.
kind of progressing I think, quite fast in the actual matches towards where my level is kind of in training and when I'm playing well. I think even from like the first match I played in of the season where I lost again in a tiebreak till the last match I played last week, there's quite a marked improvement. I guess not really in the level of tennis, but just in the kind of the ability to clutch certain situations. And I guess that's tennis, that's the fine margins and it's all in the head basically. And I'm just trying to figure that out as I kind of go along.
Hmm. So are you 18 currently?
Yeah.
Okay. So I asked, I don't know if you saw, I did a community post on YouTube and I asked my viewers for suggestions for questions, and probably the top one that popped up was, are you planning on going to college? So you said you're taking a gap year. Does that mean you're like officially planning on going to university?
I'm planning to go to university at the moment. I'm holding a spot in the UK at Bath University, which is like the one of the well where I played last week. Firstly, it's like one of the top tennis universities in the UK. I wanted to kind of keep it within the UK.
Mm.
I'm not closing the door to American universities, but I guess during the application period, I was obviously doing a lot of like academic work, and my level of tennis was nowhere near where it is now. So I
Mm.
guess kind of at the time when I should have applied, it wasn't really there. So I kind of closed that door a little bit. There were a few kind of coaches contacting me, obviously having seen the videos and stuff, which is great. So I guess I haven't closed the door to going to an American university, but I'll definitely be going to university because I was talking to
Mm.
someone the other day. They were just saying like the door, to like the level of tennis in the top 100 is so high amongst kind of older players now. Like you don't have to be 21 when you kind of go into the pro. You can kind of go to university and then make it to the top 100 or whatever because the age is like so much higher now. So and that gives me
Gotcha.
confidence, and that's kind of where I'm basing my decision on. Of course, I want a bit of like something to fall back on if tennis doesn't work out because it does for so few. So that's kind of my thought process.
All right, great. So that ties in perfectly with something I was really curious to ask you about. You have a really broad range of experience now, playing national level juniors, now just starting to make the transition over to adults, like national and international competition. I'm curious, what is your sense, Felix, of the gap between where you are now and let's say top 100? Like obviously you just played the 775
Hmm.
player. You played him really close, so I gotta assume like you feel really good about that and super
Yeah.
excited that you got so close at age 18 to that level player. What is your sense based on your experience so far of like how deep is the game of tennis exactly from like outside the top that like not having a point to let's say
Hmm.
top 1,000, and then like
Hmm.
from top 1,000 to like 500 and 500 to
Yeah.
100, like do you have a sense of like how many levels there are in there?
I would say that there are levels, but I think there's two levels. There's the mindset level and there's the tennis level. Because something I think my tennis HQ did a video on kind of my game, and he was saying
Yeah.
kind of on the mental part, he was kind of saying that players, even from not having a point, I guess like myself, to maybe 700, like the guy I played, or even 600, 500, the level of tennis isn't too different. When everyone's playing their
Mm.
best, maybe the 500 guys are a little bit better, but on the day, you're within the same category, if that makes sense. It all comes down to kind of experience and mental. And obviously, players who are on the tour who are 500 probably have better shots because their average level is higher. But it doesn't mean that someone outside the ranking list can't, again, like I played that guy, get it close on certain days. I think kind of that's why I would say kind of 600 to unranked, high level unranked players is kind of a bracket. And then obviously once you get kind of top 500 playing some challenger levels, that's where you need to kind of step up a level in terms of your tennis, but also your fitness and the off court side of the game, and also then another step mentally to maybe I guess 200, and then from 200 to kind of 100 is a separate kind of game, trying to break into the top 100. And then obviously to stay in the top 100, you need to be playing well in all of these big events. I think they help themselves by giving a lot of ATP points just by getting into the events and winning a round or so. So it's quite easy to stay in the top 100 if you're, I mean, not easy, but you know what I mean? If you're winning 1 or 2 rounds every
Yeah.
week and you're at that level anyway, it's quite, you can stay in the top 100, but breaking into that's really, really tough. So I think, yeah, that's kind of the brackets of levels. It's all kind of mental in terms of, or at least I like to think it is. I don't have any experience at that level, just from kind of what I've seen and what I've heard. It's the level of tennis kind of progresses, but the mental side is what progresses the most from Novak Djokovic to someone like myself. It's just vast. Not that the level of tennis is obviously vast as well. I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near Novak Djokovic, but I for me that's the main. If I had to choose one of the two, it's the mental side.
So yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, obviously there's a gap for both the
Yeah.
technical skills and like the physical and the mental. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you think that you relative to Novak, you're closer physically and like technically than you are mentally. Is that what you're saying?
The way you put it makes it sound like I think I'm close.
No, yeah,
Yes, technically, I get yes. That's what
the
I'm saying. I think
relative gap is closer.
the
You think
ability to
physically?
play consistently in matches, in the high level way that he plays,
Mm,
the mindset within tight moments and under pressure is just what sets him apart. And
mm.
obviously, the level of tennis that he plays complements his mental strength because the level of tennis is so high, and obviously his ability to do that week in week out is so good, which is why he's one of the best of all time. So yeah, I'd probably say that's what it is mainly.
Gotcha. So speaking of the mental side, I'm curious to hear your what was your thought process? I know you and your brother. I've been following you and your brother for years, so like I've seen the evolution of the style of content that you guys did.
Mm.
But just speaking from personal experience, recording my own training sessions, my own matches, and putting those up on the internet, there's a big, at least for me, there was a big mental like psychological challenge there. Did you feel that like when you made the decision to be like I'm going to record everything, I'm going to just make it public? Did you feel extra pressure, and what was your, and if you did feel extra pressure, why? Like why did you do it? Why did you ultimately decide to put that extra pressure on yourself?
I think the notion of any sort of pressure started with the Road to 180 point stuff.
Hmm.
Before that, it was literally just kind of showing, stereotypes or something. It wasn't like properly showing. I guess I was showing a few matches in the last 2, 3 years, but it wasn't anything like high level or showing it over time and kind of, putting something behind it. I think I kind of jumped into the Road to 180 point stuff, and it might sound a bit crazy. I just kind of woke up and said, okay, I'm doing it for this weekend. We had
Nice.
originally planned, me and my dad, to get 6 episodes like filmed and ready to go. He's German, so he likes to have a little bit of rigidity with the scheduling. But
Yeah.
then I kind of during Christmas we were in Germany, and I did some videos on Moratoglu and the academy there for I think it was 4 videos, and
Hmm.
then we had nothing for the week after. My dad kind of said maybe we just don't do anything or tiebreak or something. So I was like, let's start the series. And then I committed without thinking about the kind of the consequences in terms of pressure. So I think that's kind of helped me. That's almost helped me a little bit because I'm still going kind of I guess kind of as you go, creating it kind of as I go a little bit, which for me works because I enjoy a little bit of that pressure. I'm not really thinking too much. It's almost like, okay, get the video done, focus on the next one, get the video done. I'm not really thinking too deeply about kind of the consequences of showing my level of tennis or something because I know ultimately I'm working really, really hard every day. My level of tennis is going to get better. And even at the beginning, I lost like 3, 4 matches in a row. And that was tough to post because obviously you don't want to post yourself losing first round of tournament 3 weeks in a row. Like that's so tough. It's
Yeah.
brutal. After every single match, I was like, I can't post this. I just can't. It's so embarrassing. And then I guess after a few minutes, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, we haven't got a video, so I need to do it,
Hmm.
show the journey, and obviously there's a wide range of people watching. I've had a message from like Bublik, who said he was watching, to someone who maybe plays club level tennis or just doesn't even play tennis. So I have to just think that it's not just my peers watching who are kind of going to judge based on my level. it's going to be a broad range of people. So the kind of the characteristics of keeping going and the mental fortitude is something that's helped me grow as a person, but I think also
Mm.
valuable lessons, I guess, for people. And I think I want to again break away from the mold of, I think, within social media, of only posting good things. You see on Instagram, only posting the highlights of your life or
Yep.
whatever. You also have to show the tough moments as well, because they give the good moments context. I think that going forwards and losing closely to that ATP player with all of the context of watching me lose and lose and lose and get so close and then winning my first match. And then, it gives a bit of a contrast to the story, because if it's just high, 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 winning, winning, winning the whole time, it just gets so boring. So yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought about it too deeply. I mean, maybe you've planted the seed in my head now, but
Sorry, my bad.
yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Well, I'm going to let you do most of the talking in this conversation, but I just want to say I respect you a lot for you're very mature to have that outlook, that processing the negatives, processing the failures, and sharing them is such a huge growth opportunity for you. And I believe, is just my opinion, that you're going to develop mentally so much faster because you're sharing your failures. I think it's going to kind of be a secret weapon for you moving forwards. So I really respect you a lot for sharing everything. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing it, because I think it's going to be a huge advantage for you as a player moving forward. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
In terms of like I guess the practical stuff, how do you manage, or do you reach out to the tournament ahead of time and be like, hey, I want to record my matches? How do you communicate with your opponent, and do you ask for permission from the tournament director, the facility, like nuts and bolts, like how have you been able to capture all these matches?
I mean, this may sound a little bit funny, but I literally just go when I arrive on the day to the tournament organizer. Is it all right if I film the match? Usually they
Yeah,
say yes because it's fine. Then I go to my opponent. Is it all right if I film the match? And they'll say post some highlights X Y Z. And then usually, yeah, so far no one's kind of said no. No one's really said anything, I guess. I mean, relatively speaking, in the world of YouTube, we're not like amazingly, anything huge at the moment. So I guess people thinking about like I guess being on social is not a huge like commitment. You're not going on like for 50 million views
sure.
showing your level of tennis, and obviously it's all the kind of the best points as well. So but yeah, I mean, obviously when it comes to like futures tournaments and stuff, I'll need to do a bit more research and I guess contact them and see what happens. I guess the filming is a bit more tricky when you're going to like some country in Egypt or whatever, and you've got my dad there with his expensive camera. And I guess it's depending on what area you're in, it could be difficult, X, Y, Z. So, yeah, maybe a bit more planning necessary. But in the UK, it's been pretty good so far. But there have been times where obviously we haven't been able to film. There was one tournament, it was in like a bubble kind of,
Hmm.
and obviously, when you're playing a match, you can't really have anything like camera equipment at the back because you could hit it with the ball, you could fall over, X, Y, Z. But yeah, apart from that one tournament, it's been pretty good to film so far. I usually try and pick the tournaments that I can film at, like they have a balcony at the top and they get a nice angle down.
Yeah.
I've been trying to stay to those kind of venues, but yeah, I've been pretty lucky so far looking back at it.
So you're literally deciding which tournament to sign up for based on like how accessible the viewing area is for shooting.
Yeah, I mean, there's not like loads and loads and loads of tournaments to choose from, but
Yeah,
I think so far out of maybe there's one time where there were two overlapping, so I decided to go to the one which was I could film. They're all relatively similar levels anyway, so it's not like I'm choosing to play one at the sacrifice of the other.
gotcha.
But it's obviously much easier if then I can film, and I have a lot less stress with creating videos, because if you can't really use like match footage makes up a lot of the videos when I have like a tournament vlog. So if I don't have that, it's really tough to kind of tell a story, and I have to do so much work on the back end. And the turnaround on these videos is pretty nuts. I mean, the tournament starts on like a Thursday or a Friday. If I win a match, it goes to Saturday or Friday, depending on when it starts. And if you go all the way to the end, it finishes on the Saturday, and I have to finish it by the Sunday. So usually I'm finishing these, like the one last week, I finished on played a match on Thursday, played Friday, got home on Saturday morning, and then I had Saturday, Sunday morning to just edit everything, get it up, and post it. So that's like a really big grind within 2 days to get it done.
For
So
sure.
hopefully we can get that sorted and try and get it a bit more streamlined so I have a bit more time to do that type of stuff. But yeah, I've been pretty fortunate so far.
Nice. Well, I'm glad it's worked out so well. But next question. Thinking back over the trips that you've taken, the documenting that you've done, what's the top thing that comes to mind that you say to yourself, "Oh, I can't believe I didn't record, XYZ." Like what's the top thing that would have been amazing content, but you just didn't have the camera with you, or you forgot to push record, or something like that?
In general or on the series?
Either way.
Well, this is kind of a separate story because it was before YouTube, but I was at the O2 Arena. I was maybe 7, 8 years old.
Nice.
And Rafa Nadal was practicing on a practice court at the arena, and there was this woman that came out to me and my dad and asked, "Would you like to meet Rafa, hit some balls with him, and
Wow.
get an autograph, say hello?" And I was so shy, I was so scared, I just totally froze up, and I was like, "No." And my dad was
Wow.
almost
Oh
went
no.
crazy at me, and he was like, "What are you?" He said to the woman, like, I'm sure he's gonna say yes. Just come back in 5 minutes, you know." And she was like, "Okay, but you haven't got loads of time." And I just totally froze up, and I was like, "I can't do it. I can't do it." And that's probably one of my biggest regrets to the day in tennis.
Uh,
I never took that opportunity. Hopefully, before he retires, I'll get to maybe meet him and have a picture or whatever with him. Um, maybe through social or through tennis or whatever. That should
yeah.
should maybe get that dream back. But in terms of actual tournaments, the only thing is obviously it's tough with when you finish a match. Obviously, I'd like to get kind of the sequence of me, what I thought post match, what I'm doing, like stretching, foam rolling, whatever it is. It's obviously it's really tough when I get as well. You've got like friends at the tournament, you want to out with them. Obviously, none of them do social stuff, so it's tough to kind of
Hmm.
have that discipline to do that. So that's sometimes when I say, okay, I'm just not going to film it. I'll put some stock footage in, or I'll film it later, and and that's kind of a sacrifice I make a little bit. But I think the overall story is kind of the same if you kind of roughly say. I don't think that's too much of a kind of a moment where I've regretted filming. Yeah, on the series so far, nothing really has happened. Fingers crossed, nothing happens. I mean, we've had no SD cards fail or anything like footage corrupted, which is very
Good.
good. But I mean, I imagine the footage of that match, if that corrupted, I would have cried, honestly.
I totally understand.
The
It's
amount of
brutal.
effort. Yeah,
Yeah. Sooner or later, it's gonna like with technology. It's like it's gonna happen sooner or later. So I
yeah,
guess just mentally prepare yourself. You never know
yeah.
when something like that will happen. It's
Oh,
so
for sure.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My dad's
Uh,
super like conservative with that. We got a camera which has like two SD card slots, so like
Good.
if
Yeah.
one fails, we get the other one. I'm not too big into like the cameras and the tech. That's kind of what he specializes in a little bit because he does all the filming. But yeah, I mean stuff like that is coming for sure. The more we film, the more we do videos. But hopefully, it isn't too bad when it happens. I'm hoping I don't get like this hit with Rafa or something. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? I
Right.
get that final hit with Rafa, and the file corrupts or the footage goes. I mean, that would be a nightmare.
Don't even think about that. That'd be absolutely brutal. Going back to the level differences, as you're starting to try to push through and like make this breakthrough to your first point and then beyond that,
Mhm.
looking back at your junior career and maybe the relationships you have with, let's say, adults around you, like normal tennis players, like me, that never even had a chance to try to have the opportunity to do like what you're doing right now. What's the number one thing that you think junior players who maybe didn't compete at your level or adult players who never had the chance to compete at your level, what's the top thing that regular tennis players don't understand about what you're trying to accomplish right now? Like misconception or like we just don't get it. Like how hard it is or like what's the top thing that we don't get?
Um, it's a tough question because I think that I guess if you haven't, I guess, had that opportunity to play at the highest level, there's two things I would say for me at least. The first would be obviously I'm not talking from experience here. I'm talking from kind of people that have played at the level. Even the top guys, like the best players in the world, still take, especially when you're younger, years and years to even get through the futures level. I mean, the actual level of tennis is so vast. you've got players stuck there for 2, 3 years before they kind of, like up to 5, 6 years, whatever, before you actually break through and then finally, get top 100 or something crazy. So it's not like you're an amazing talent, you have top 100 potential, you play 4 tournaments and then you're there.
No.
It does take a long grind, especially with a lot of players. Some players do kind of fly through. I mean, you've seen a few juniors like Alcaraz go pretty quickly, and Aliassime, a lot of those guys. But unless you're like a generational talent, the actual grind week in, week out in these places like Tunisia, Egypt, it is extreme. And I'm really preparing myself for it to be a long battle, even to get my
Mm.
first point, to get the second point, and it'll be a slow process. So I think preparing myself mentally is the biggest thing. And the second thing I'd kind of say is the level of detail that it requires in terms of the fine margins that it takes to be better than other players, because it could be just stretching for 15 minutes after a session, having the discipline
Mm.
to do it every single time. What you're eating is super important. You're warming up, cooling down. Even at my age, I know a lot. I could probably go onto court, not have any problems, but it's obviously you don't want to risk injury. Doing the correct recovery, doing the right amount of training, the off court stuff, movement, S&C. There's so many variables, and then obviously the mindset, match analysis. There's so many variables that come into being a tennis player that each individually may not sound too difficult to do, but when you put them all together, it does take a lot of time, and more than time, just the willpower to get it done. That's something I'm finding. It's hard to do it day in, day out consistently, and that's
Mm.
what it takes to be the top players in the game. And I guess that's something that I aspire to be able to do consistently every single day, day in, day out, as well as obviously maintain the high level throughout the tournaments day in, day out. So it's all about consistency, really, isn't it?
So it sounds like, in a nutshell, what you're saying is getting to that breakthrough point
Mhm.
requires way more time, way more effort, way more. It's way harder than what it seems like from the outside, just watching tennis on TV.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because I think a lot of what people see is they see players rise very, very quickly through the ranks. I'm using, let's say, Emma Raducanu as an example. She wasn't really playing futures before, but she was, I guess, around 300, and then she wins the US Open. She's suddenly top 30 or something. So the kind of the before the rise, where nobody sees you, nobody is hearing about you. There's thousands of players who are playing futures that suddenly, when they get their breakthrough, it seems like, oh, they're suddenly new on the scene, but they're not
Yeah.
really. They've been there for 5 years. I mean, that's what people don't really see. And hopefully, with
Mm.
the journey, I can kind of expose that side of tennis a little bit, showing that how little prize money people get paid at even futures and low level challenges. How much time people are spending, the commitment that these players are giving, and there's no difference in commitment between someone who's playing futures who's maybe 800 and some guy who's like 300 playing challenges. In terms of commitment, there's probably no difference. It's just about mental grind, day in, day out,
Mm.
and those types of things. Obviously, I'm not speaking kind of from experience of being on the tour, but I guess from what people have said and what I've heard, I guess, yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of playing there and seeing that experience and experiencing it for myself. And I guess I'm interested to see kind of how I deal with it, and I guess whether it is exactly the same as what I think.
Yeah, and that's the second thing I'd really like to pat you on the back for, Felix, is in my experience as not a high level junior player, and then an okay college player, and then kind of a career on court coach, but having connections with people who I played college tennis with that were way more talented with me, that did go, as an example, and try to play futures, try to play challengers. I think there's such a disconnect between tennis fans and understanding exactly what it is they're watching, on TV, and how hard they've worked and how much of a grind it was, like exactly
Yeah.
what you're describing. And so I just want to say, like, I feel like you're doing like a big service to tennis, like as a sport, and you're doing a big service to tennis fans by documenting this process and showing people exactly how hard it is. I think the sport needs like more transparency about that, and
Yeah.
more content, like showing exactly how tough it really is. Because I don't think many tennis fans understand it at all. So thank you for going to the trouble of doing it. I think it's going to help a lot of people have a deeper appreciation for the game.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I wish I would have started the kind of earlier, because I think that
Yeah.
it's not just like from when you're 18. Obviously, it's been since the age of 7. And obviously back then
Right. Yeah.
YouTube wasn't really a thing. I couldn't have really done it. But looking back, I guess people now even can do the same journey, and it's super valuable even for me when I watch other channels to see what they're doing, how they're approaching the game. And I guess tennis is obviously a very individual sport, so you can learn a lot of things from a lot of different people.
Mm.
And I'm super excited to, I guess, show what I'm doing, and how I'm kind of going about trying to get this point. And obviously, a lot of people have a lot of opinions on how best to play, how best to go about certain things. And
You
you're
found
reading
out
all
about that, huh?
you're reading all the well before we weren't getting we weren't getting any comments before. I mean,
Yeah.
peanuts compared to like some of the stuff now. I'm going reading through comments
Yeah.
at like 10 p.m. before I go to bed, and I've got Bob telling me how to hit my forehand, and it's like you
Careful,
know
man.
it's really difficult because you can go down the rabbit hole of thinking, oh, he's
Yeah.
got a point, he's got a point, he's got a point,
Yeah.
in terms of like what your game is. So you've got to just stick on what you're doing and trust in yourself and believe in yourself with what you're doing. I think that's kind of helped me again mentally to deal with people judging you and that type of stuff in life as well. But yeah, I'd love to see more people's journeys, and more people's kind of experiences in tennis, because I think that's one of the areas, especially within social media, that not a lot of people can portray in a YouTube style format. You see a lot of people on Instagram, but mainly on YouTube is brutal. It's a beast. It's as you're aware.
Yeah. Yeah. I am aware.
It's a grind. It wears you down. You feel burnt
Yeah.
out. So obviously it's not for everyone, and not everyone can do it. But I definitely like to see more people and more people's journeys, because I think that's again like especially exactly what tennis needs, and it's what other sports have as well. Which is why they're kind of, I think, in other sports you understand a little bit more behind the scenes. And on another note, the Netflix documentary for tennis should hopefully bring a larger fan base to tennis as a sport. So hopefully from that, maybe some people get some inspiration to start their tennis journeys or create some YouTube content, stuff like that.
Yeah. I totally agree. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I'd like to ask a couple more questions before we wrap up
Yeah.
about the future, like looking forward. And I don't want to like make it weird and make you, make any kind of predictions or anything like that. But I am curious about your kind of where your headspace is at and mentally, where you're at. So my first question related to that is just simply at this point, making it to where you have now, how confident are you that you're going to reach your first goal of getting that first point? Do you feel confident about it, and how confident?
I mean, originally, I'll let you into a little secret here. Originally, my goal wasn't to get an ATP point. It was to get to like a UTR of like 12, I think it was, and get in the first team for my university. That was my
Yeah.
original aim, and that's how I kind of sold it to myself. But obviously, YouTube, you need some sort of clickbait. So I thought, okay, how can I make this title the best possible? Oh, road to one ATP point.
Mm.
That sounds the most appealing. I mean, my original aim was to get like one ITF Pro Circuit point, which you get from getting to the last round of qualies, which will then allow me to get into futures tournaments. But I guess as it's progressed, I've now kind of molded that goal into getting an ATP point. I think at the beginning of the year, I was slightly hesitant. Obviously, it's an extremely difficult task, and I don't know exactly what it entails because I haven't played these futures tournaments. But for me, especially having played the number 775 and getting so close, I feel that was the first time I really was able to find a different level of myself. And if I
Mm.
can keep doing that week in, week out, keep the analysis, keep the training going, and all of the stuff that I'm doing kind of behind the scenes to a very high level, I'm confident that I can do well in these tournaments, and hopefully try and get an ATP point. If it doesn't come this year, it will come next year, and if it not, then the year after. And then again, I'm not really focusing on going full time on the pro tour until after university anyway. So there's quite a long way
Okay.
to go. So it's about staggering myself in terms of not being too eager to get too much too soon, because that can be quite kind of destructive if you're, I guess, too eager to get stuff, and then you don't want to go to uni, and then that becomes a kind of a cycle, and then it doesn't work, and then you've got all that stuff. So I think for me, just kind of being relaxed with what I've got, as long as I'm putting in the work and I feel myself, I'm doing the most that I can do possible. That's where I'm content, and then whatever happens, happens. I've got quite a kind of relaxed view on. I don't have any like year by year goals or anything like that. I think it's kind of open, and I guess the series helps me to kind of be real with myself, you know.
Cool. I like it. So no matter what, so regard, let's like kind of shift gears and think like kind of pie, like best case scenario. So no matter what happens this year, are you gonna go to university?
Uh, yeah, I think. I mean, if I was top 300 in the world, I would maybe consider doing the pro tour.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm not never saying never because,
Sure.
I mean, yeah, I won't get to top 300 anyway. But I think I was maybe looking at taking a second year off. I guess that's also for the YouTube stuff to help that grow, because obviously when you're at uni, you don't have a lot of time. Because I'd
Mm.
like to see where that avenue goes, because I maybe see that as an opportunity to obviously, you know, help the sport of tennis and bring more people to tennis, and maybe see that as something that I could do, you know, alongside and help support me financially throughout when I try and become a pro. Um, but if that doesn't, you obviously have to ask the university. If they're okay with it, then I maybe take that option. If not, then yeah, I'll definitely, you know, go to university.
Okay. Cool. All right. I got two more questions for you, Felix. One like tennis career, and then the other one YouTuber focused, and they're basically the same question, but for each of your kind of roles. So as a
Yeah.
tennis player, if you just look like way down the road, 10 years from now,
Mm.
what is the absolute, what's your like dream scenario? What are you hoping to accomplish down the road? Like what's your the carrot that's dangling out in front of you that you're really hoping, if you put in all the work, you stay focused, you take the right path, what are you hoping happens down the road?
Well, two things with the tennis. Number one would be to be able to financially make a living out of tennis and cover obviously all costs and stuff like that, and play like on the tour. That's my main goal, to play week in, week out in nice places, cool events. And then kind of separate to that is play Wimbledon. That would be one of my main aims. I
Awesome.
obviously live near Wimbledon. So that's kind of one of my childhood dreams, is playing main draw Wimbledon. And I guess to be able to get there, other than a wild card, would be to kind of be in that kind of 100, range where you're making a living kind of anyway. So that kind of all ties in nicely. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, obviously main draw would be nice. Even qualifying, I'll take. I mean, I think that's kind of one of the more realistic goals. I think you know, you have to be kind of honest with yourself of where you're at. I mean, I'm not a prodigy at 18. I'm not crazy high level like these guys like Alcaraz and I think Holger. He's like top 100 now as well. So being realistic with yourself, that would be my ultimate kind of dream from tennis. I guess anything that is more than that is amazing. Anything less than that is, I guess, expected in a way. But yeah, having the realistic expectations is super important. Otherwise, you can get kind of lost in where your goals are and where you kind of need to be at certain points.
So curious, before we go to the YouTuber like side of it,
Yeah.
what is the biggest difference between you and like the prodigy type players? Do you think it's how early you started, or financial resources, or is it like coaching, or
Well,
athleticism?
let's take Alcaraz for example. So
Hmm.
I would say it's everything. I think in every aspect of the tennis journey, he's obviously been better. I think natural talent, he's got me on natural talent. He's unbelievably talented. He's obviously focused on tennis as a main sport from a very, very young age. I don't know specifically his journey. I haven't looked into it too much in the younger years, but I know obviously Carlos Ferrero taking him on as his coach, one of the best players, world number one. So he had obviously amazing tennis coaching available to him from a very, very young age. I'm not sure when they started working together. In his teens, very young teens. And obviously a main focus on tennis. I'm not sure what his school situation was, but I've obviously been at school full time from 12 to 18 last year.
Mm.
So obviously can't devote anywhere near the amount of time that these guys are devoting. And obviously on court, off court, mentally, the support that they get is crazy. And of course, once you start playing those tournaments, the financial side allows you to have all of the opportunities possible once you're of a crazy level, and obviously sponsors flock to you. So I think kind of all aspects of the game, there's a kind of a superior side to Carlos over myself. But again, everyone's kind of on their own trajectory, in my opinion. So kind of everyone has their own kind of path that they take, whether it's college tennis, whether it's going straight into pros like Alcaraz. And kind of I'm just kind of trusting that I'll be put on the right path and I'll get to kind of where I'm doing as long as I'm putting in the hard work every day. It's not like I'm kind of expecting it to come suddenly via fate. I'm expecting, I'm hoping that it will come via fate, but I have to put in the hard work and trust that it comes rather than hoping. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so last question. YouTuber, like dreams, 5 years from now, 10, maybe it's another platform, who knows? But I guess as a creator, what are your biggest dreams?
It's a really open question because I didn't really think about that until I didn't really think about having a kind of even carrying on through university properly up until I guess I started the series or a bit before that. So I think it's relatively fresh in terms of kind of the growth. It's been pretty crazy in terms of, I don't know, YouTube especially, but obviously on Instagram, there's new stuff on TikTok and there's a lot of new stuff. I mean, for me, my overall aim is to just kind of, I guess, inspire and reach as many people as possible within the tennis community or outside the tennis community and bring them into tennis and build it kind of as a sport, because that not only helps all of the pro players, and hopefully that will be me one day because I'm kind of giving back. But also, I guess the sport as a whole to have more people playing it and have more of a buzz around tennis. I think that's kind of my overall, I mean, aim. I'd love to be able to do kind of the YouTube stuff full time alongside trying to become a tennis player. I think that would be an awesome kind of mix between the two. I mean, I'm not kind of gonna sit here and say I have a goal in terms of like subscribers or followers or something, because it's all relative. I mean, you could have 1 million subscribers and you could reach 5,000 people, or you could have 5,000 subscribers and reach 1 million people. I mean, on social, stuff goes viral, stuff goes crazy. You get, it's all over the place. So I think if you stick with a main kind of goal and vision, that's kind of what's going to be more effective in the long term. And yeah, I guess that's kind of the overall aim. Obviously, I'd love to have as many followers and people following the journey as possible, because hopefully I can make content that's of value, and hopefully, tennis as a whole grows. Because I think a lot of YouTubers like yourself are providing such great value and such great content within the tennis space, which I'm sure a lot of people appreciate. So I think, yeah, just growing tennis as a whole, really.
Awesome. All right, Felix. So before we sign off, I'm just going to kind of leave it open to you. Is there any message you'd like to send out to my audience, besides obviously subscribing to your channel? And anybody who's watching this, obviously you need to subscribe to Felix and watch his journey. You're a great guy. You're doing amazing work, Felix. It's really a joy to watch you and watch your content. Nice. So aside from asking everybody to subscribe, which I'm sure they will anyway, I'll just kind of give you the floor. Anything that you'd like to say?
Not really. I mean, I'd love, if I'm in America sometime, to come and have a hit with you, maybe play a tiebreak 10.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Do a little collab. I'd love to do that. I've been watching you kind of for a while, I guess. You were one of the first people on YouTube to really kind of, I guess, get big. And I've been inspired by a lot of your stuff. So I guess to thank you, and I guess to thank anyone watching for helping make our channels possible in this day and age. And I guess anyone watching from my channel, go subscribe to Ian as well. If you don't already know, I mean, it's on your channel anyway, but I'm sure it's always good to plug the fact that people should subscribe. I've learned that already.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
I've had videos which I've said I've forgotten to say subscribe, and the numbers are so different to when you do. So
yeah,
it makes a big difference. So yeah, I mean, apart from that, thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed myself, and hopefully we can see each other in person sometime, have a hit, film a cool video, and have some fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, do me a favor and give your dad a hug or a high five, and just tell him thank you, because the support that he's given you, I'm sure you're super grateful for. But to have kind of tech support and like production support is huge. I'm sure that helps you a ton be able to stick to the schedule and actually commit to it. So make sure to tell him you appreciate it, and I hope that you take some encouragement from our talk, and I'm sure there's going to be tons and tons of feedback and comments below this talk from people encouraging you and pushing you on. Like, we're all rooting for you, both as three ways, like as a player, as a creator, as a person. You're obviously super mature, like you've got a great head on your shoulders, and it's just inspiring to watch your journey. So keep up the good work. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Felix. I'll be watching super closely and excited to see how you do.
Cheers, Ian. Yeah, it was great to talk to you as well.
Take care.